Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, Social Media Basics for Small Business. So glad to have everyone here. This is going to be super fun. My name is Sarah Burke, and I'm going to be your presenter today. And I'm also the content marketer at Spokal. And I've been doing this job for the last 9-10 months nearly. It's an amazing job that gives me the opportunity to talk to small business owners and startups all the time and get to know what they really need. And one of the things I get asked a lot about is social media. And while I can answer all these questions individually, I'm a firm believer that if one person's asking a question, there's going to be at least 10 other people behind them asking the same thing. So I thought putting together a webinar on the topic would be super useful. So here's a look at what we're going to be talking about today. First, I'm going to discuss why social media is so great for small business. Then I'll discuss the top 5 social media platforms, and I'll go into a little bit of detail on those. And then I'll run through what to share and when to share it. And finally, I'm going to finish with some actionable tips on how to get started with all of that. So let's jump right in. Why is social media so great for your business? It's an important question to ask because if you're not convinced that social media will benefit your business, then you'll probably be less likely to devote the time and the energy to social media that it requires to be effective. So the first reason that social media is so great for small business is that everyone is on it. This isn't normally a great reason to do anything, I know, but the thing is with marketing, if your audience is there and your competition is there, then you should be too. And if you're not, you're missing a huge opportunity. People on social media are there to ask questions and to get information and to start conversations. So if you're not there to answer those conversations, to give that information and to answer those questions, you can guarantee that your competition is. So 87% of B2Bs and 86% of B2Cs are on social media. So that's a huge percentage of businesses that are already on social media. So again, if you're not on it, your competition definitely is. So 89% of 18 to 29-year-olds are, and 82% of 30 to 49-year-olds are. And again, that's a huge percentage of the population. So that means there's a huge potential for marketing your business there. Again, just because everyone's on it isn't good enough reason for you to be on it too. There are other reasons that social media is so great for your business. And one of them are social media also guides purchasing decisions. So consumers are 71% more likely to purchase based on social media referrals. And out of 53 consumers who said they use Twitter to recommend companies or products in their tweets, 48% bought that product or service. 74% of consumers rely on social networks to guide purchasing decisions. So as you can see, social media plays a huge role in making purchasing decisions for the modern consumer. Social also encourages word of mouth. Remember before the internet was born when we used to get reviews of products and services from our neighbors over the backyard fence? Well, social media is the new backyard fence. 81% of US online consumers' purchasing decisions are influenced by their friends' social media posts. And 43% of consumers are more likely to buy a new product when learning about it on social media. And we all know that word of mouth is one of the most powerful marketing tools we have at our disposal. So it's really important to realize that social media is a powerful tool in driving word of mouth. And the final reason that social media is so amazing for your business is that it helps with SEO. And this is happening more and more as the years go on. Search engines are really looking at social signals like likes, tweets, shares, favorites, etc., for an indication that content is good. And they use these social signals as information to rank that content higher. So now that we've established why social media is so great for your business, let's talk about what's actually going on these social media platforms that makes them so good for your business. So imagine this is your website. A customer comes in and they like what you do and they have a great customer experience and then they leave. But they decide to keep in touch with you via social media. And you engage with them with great content and great conversations, with great information, and you give them yet another amazing experience. And they're not going to forget you. They're going to come back and they're going to make another purchase with you, or they're going to stay with you on the service that you're providing them already. So this cycle can happen again and again. It's the engagement cycle of social media. So as long as you're putting amazing content out there, you're going to keep engaging your customers and they're going to stay with you. But social media engagement has a secondary function as well. It actually drives social visibility, which means more people can see you. And if more people can see you, the more prospects you have. And the more prospects you have, the more customers you have. So as you can see, the engagement that you have on social media not only helps you retain customers, but it also generates new ones. So you're convinced that social media is great for your small business. Which one should you be on? You can't be on them all. There's a lot out there, and I don't really have time to go through them all either. So I'm just going to go through the top 5 here, which are Pinterest, LinkedIn, Twitter, Google+, and Facebook. So let's start with Facebook, which is the most popular social media network. Everyone is on it, and they're looking for text posts, visuals, memes, videos, cats, really anything that's entertaining, anything that's interesting, anything educational. And that's what makes Facebook amazing for textual content and visual content. It really works for all types of content. B2Bs, B2Cs, nonprofits all use it for marketing purposes. The second popular platform is probably Twitter. It has a lot of users with 650 million people on it. And on average, they're a little bit younger, but their incomes are a little bit higher. People go onto Twitter to learn about updates and trends and news. It's a very fast-moving platform. This is where you'll hear all the newest and most up-to-date information. So it's really, really good for sharing news and original content and curated content. Like Facebook, B2Bs, B2Cs, and nonprofits are all quite active on the platform. So they all market on this platform quite effectively. LinkedIn, however, is a little bit more specific. It's a business-oriented social media platform. It has 300 million people on it, but they only use it for about 4 hours or less a week. People go on to LinkedIn to learn about industry news, tips, advice, and just general business-related content. Because of this, it became a really great place for thought leadership, but mostly B2Bs market on LinkedIn. So if you're not a B2B, LinkedIn might not be your best bet for marketing purposes. Google Plus has an audience of 500,000 active monthly users who are mostly male and mostly professional. It's kind of like Facebook in the way that people look for news, links, content, blog posts, videos. Most content works really effectively there. Google Plus also has great communities that you can follow and read others' content, which increases your expertise. And because Google Plus is owned by Google, it's thought that getting a lot of engagement on Google Plus, so getting a lot of +1s, helps you with your content's ranking in search engines. So it has that added benefit of helping your SEO out, which is great. It's mostly used by B2Bs and B2Cs. Pinterest is another niche social media platform with 80% of its 70 million users being female. Pinterest is also all about visuals. So photos, products, infographics, graphics, photo of products work really, really well. But it's mostly used by B2Cs, and it gets more referral traffic than Twitter, LinkedIn, Reddit, and Google Plus combined, because that is their target audience, is the consumer. Of course, there are plenty of other social media platforms out there. For example, Instagram, YouTube, Reddit, Snapchat, Tumblr, Zoo, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And sometimes these alternative social media platforms can actually work better for businesses than more popular sites. So doesn't do any harm to do some research and try these platforms out if you think that they might suit you better. I was talking to a business recently for a bit of a project that we're doing, and they were saying that it was Tumblr and Reddit that they use primarily, and the more popular platforms weren't that effective for them. So I really would suggest doing a little bit of research into the other platforms before you dive in to the more mainstream. So what do you actually say on these platforms? Well, it all depends on your business, of course. There isn't a clear set of rules that you have to follow, but that's not really helpful for you guys. So I just wanted to give you a starting point, which is the 5-3-2 rule. And this is often used as a template for good social sharing etiquette. And all it means is that out of every 10 pieces of content you share, 5 should be curated content from others, 3 should be your own, and 2 should be entertaining, personal, kind of other pieces of content that aren't related or super serious to your industry. Again, this is just a template, so play around with it, test it, and see what ratios work best for you. So curated content, if you didn't know, is content that you find from another source in your industry. And it's suggested that good social sharing etiquette means sharing content from other people a lot. So I like to think about this as in you're sitting at a dinner table and you're having a conversation with somebody, and the conversation topics shouldn't just be all about you. It should really be about them or just different topics related to your industry. So that's kind of where this curating content comes from. So to curate content, it's really, really easy. Find content from other sources. And to do this, I use emails, newsletters, social media. There's also certain platforms like Medium, Scoop It, and StumbleUpon that are kind of curation platforms anyways. And if you follow the right people, you can get some amazing content from that. And when you're curating content, don't forget to tag the person who's responsible for that content, because that really builds up some important relationships with businesses in your industry, which is important for marketing. 30% of your content can be your own. But in saying that, this isn't about being salesy. People don't like following brands that always push their own stuff. Personalize your social sharing. Don't just do headlines and plus a link to your post. That's boring. A lot of people do it. So a lot of customers and a lot of our audience have started to block it out. It just doesn't catch the eye. Oh, and don't forget to add an image to the post as well, wherever possible. Visuals get a lot more attention on social media than simple text posts because they're more engaging, because they're more interesting. People are going to see them more. They take up more space. You know, it just makes sense to add a visual there. And finally, 20% of your content should be personal or funny or just kind of off topic. This is a great place to show people that you're human. So it makes a business much more likable. So I just put up some quotes or maybe a funny cartoon I've seen. Maybe if it's, for example, it was St. Paddy's Day, I might make a nice little DIY graphic and share that. Just anything that I think will entertain my audience and kind of get them into a conversation with me. So now you know what to post. Let's talk about when to post. So again, this varies from business to business, and I don't like to kind of give rules out and say you have to follow this, because everything is so dependent on your specific business and your specific audience. So I'll give you guidelines that can kind of get you off to a really good start, but then just test that and play around with that and figure out what works best for you and for your audience. So for Facebook, it's advisable to post about 3 times a week. I know it doesn't seem like a lot, especially for how much we use Facebook in our personal lives, but that's the quantity of posts that gets the most engagement. It's also good to post on Saturdays, from what I've heard, as that's when most people are share on Facebook, and that's where people have a lot of downtime and they're on the platform more. Twitter is really fast. It's updated so much and so often that you can kind of post something every 18 minutes to 2 hours, depending on your audience and how many people you think that the majority of them are following. You can share a lot of content on Twitter without annoying people because it is updated so regularly. Pinterest is as much as you want. Nobody's going to get annoyed for you posting original and unique and interesting images on Pinterest. What's great about Pinterest as well is when you pin something, it does stay there for quite a long time. Google Plus is about 1 to 2 times a day. There's not a whole lot of studies on this. I got that number from some of the big Google Plus superstars. I've posted more and posted less, and it's been just as good, if not better, when I post a bit more than 1 to 2 posts a day. So again, it's just about testing it and see what works for you though. And LinkedIn itself suggests 1 post per weekday. Well, they actually suggest 20 times a month, which works out to about 5 times a week. And that works out to 1 post per weekday. And they say if you do 20 posts per month, you will reach 60% of your audience, which is a pretty impressive number. So that's their guideline for that. So I've given you a lot of information. How do you get started? Obviously, you're not going to be active on all 5 platforms straight away. It takes a little bit of time to build up to being active on all these platforms. So I'd suggest just choosing 1 to start off and get that really, really solid and get into the groove of that. And then, figuring out which is the next platform for you. So a good way to figure out what social media platform you should start on, I would suggest creating a pros and cons table like I've done here. So I'm going to run through some of the kind of pros and cons that I've mentioned today already. So with Facebook, there's a lot of people and everyone loves to share content on it. And because most people are on Facebook, there's this ease of communication that works great for customer service. But it's quite noisy, so it can be a little bit hard to be heard through everything else. And it doesn't help that there's also a low organic reach. So unless you're paying for ads, not all your followers will see your posts, which is a bit of a shame. Twitter, on the other hand, is noisy, but brands and people still love it. Tweets are really easy and really quick to create because they're only 140 words. Twitter is known as texting for the internet, so it's fast and it's efficient and it's fun. It's really good for marketing. 49% of people prefer to hear from businesses on Twitter, so people really expect to be marketed there. In terms of cons, Twitter is really fast, so you have to post quite regularly in order for it to be effective. If you don't, your posts will be pushed down to the bottom and no one's going to see them. And it isn't great for image-based content. So when you share an image on Twitter, it does get better engagement, but it doesn't really highlight the product or the graphic that much. Google Plus is amazing to talk to a super targeted audience. Like I said before, the Google Plus communities are really, really, really great. You can join a specific one that's related to your industry or that you think your target audience will be really involved in. And you can kind of start conversations, share content, create amazing engagement. And again, we did say that Google Plus has a positive effect on your SEO. So that's a big plus as well. The cons are that it's quite quiet still, and it also has a bit of a bad rep for almost copying Facebook. A lot of people don't love it as much as they do the other platforms. And on the other side, the people that do love it really love it. So you just don't have that devotion to Google Plus that maybe LinkedIn or Twitter would have. LinkedIn has a really large organic reach. So when you put content there, the chances are people will see it. It establishes credibility with connections. On the negative side, it's a small niche and it's kind of slow to set up and get going. So you don't see a lot of results from the get-go. So you need to have a bit of patience with it. As we said, Pinterest gets more referral traffic than Twitter, LinkedIn, Reddit, and Google Plus combined because it's very, very consumer focused. So if you're a B2C, Pinterest is going to be really amazing for you, especially if you have products and you have high quality photos that you can add there. Another positive is that your pins stay active for a really, really long period of time. So the content stays useful even as you're adding new stuff. The bad side is that it's a small niche. So like we said, 80% are women. So if your product or your service isn't really targeted at women, this might not be the ideal platform for you. And B2Bs aren't really on it either. So if you're not a B2C, B2Bs have yet to pick up on it that effectively. I've recently started it for Spokal, and I'm seeing a reasonable amount of success with it. Not a whole lot, but I haven't spent a huge amount of time on it. It's something that I'm kind of trying to do organically. I have the pin button, so when I see a graphic or an infographic that I really like, I'm starting to share that on our Pinterest, and I'm hoping to kind of grow it as we go. And we're seeing a few people come into the site through that. Not a whole lot, but like I said, there's not a lot of B2Bs there, so that could be the reason for that. And it's also more effective for those businesses that have products. So Spokal is a service as a software, so we don't have the actual product to take a photo of. So yeah, it is more effective if you have a product and if you're a B2C. So as you can see, there are loads of pros and cons for every social media platform. There are plenty more. I just named a few. So I really would suggest just choosing one of them based off of how much time you have, what content you have, and what kind of business you're in. So just choose one and then get started doing that one really, really well before you move on to the others. It kind of gets you into the flow of how to talk on social media as a business as well before you start overwhelming yourself with all of them. So to get started, you have to create a business page, and all of these 5 platforms that I've named today have separate business pages from personal pages, except for Twitter. So Twitter is just you create a Twitter handle and then you can go on Twitter and do whatever you want. There's not a specific business page that you need to set up. But with the other 4, there is. So after you set your business page up or your Twitter handle account, it's really important that you spend some time filling in your profiles as thoroughly as you can. By that, I mean as many contact details as you can. Your About Me section is actually quite important, so please don't skip that thinking you can fill it in later. It's really important just to get that done now, there and then when you're starting this. Profile photos and cover photos are actually really important for giving off a professional look. So definitely spend a little bit of time creating that. If you don't have one ready-made, if you don't have a cover photo ready-made, go to Canva and create something nice and to put there for the time being. But definitely spend some time filling that in before you share your social media platforms and you become really active on that. Also, don't forget to add your social media links to your website and your email. So in the bottom of every email, you should have your social media links, and on your website, you should have your social media links there too. And even better is if you have them in your blog posts and inside your content, so people can easily share those blog posts as they're reading them, as they're looking at them, and as they're finding them interesting. They can just share it really super quickly. So once your business page is set up, you're ready to start posting. And the easiest and most manageable way to do this is in batches. And by that, I mean scheduling all of your social sharing for the day or the week or the month, depending on how much you're doing, in one go. So this way you'll be consistently sharing content without ever having to take the time to always be active on it. So nobody wants to just be sitting on their computers staring at Facebook all day or staring at Twitter all day. And especially for small businesses, this just isn't really logical. You don't have the budget to pay for maybe a social media marketer to sit there and run those campaigns all day. So social media automation really helps you be active throughout the day, throughout the weeks, while you're off doing something else. And especially, on weekends and holidays, or if you're in busy meetings, you don't have to worry about it. It's all set up. So there are tons of tools that help you automate your social sharing. For example, well, first, Spokal has social sharing inside the platform. IFTTT, Social Oomph, Hootsuite, they're all amazing tools. A lot of them have free trials or free basic plans as well. So it's just about personal preference when it comes down to choosing what one suits you the best. And so we have reached the end of our webinar today, and I just want to leave you with 4 key points to sum up what I've discussed today. So firstly, do your research and choose just one platform to get started. Please don't overwhelm yourself by trying to get on all of them at once, because the quality of your social sharing will degrade a little bit if you do that. Fill out your profile as thoroughly as you can, and this gives an impression of professionalism to your customers that you really, really want to have on social media. Use the 5-3-2 rule as a template to get started, but test it and to see what works best for you. And finally, create a posting schedule and use social media automation to share your content throughout the week. So that concludes today's webinar. So now I'm going to open up the floor for questions. You can just type them in the sidebar there if you have any questions. Okay, so is it a good idea to hire someone to handle your social media accounts? Well, like I said, for small businesses, this isn't always a viable solution, and it's not necessarily mandatory either whatsoever. I'm the marketer at Spokal. I do 100 other things, and I do the social media. So we definitely don't have a dedicated person to our social media, and we're pretty active and engaged on it. So what I do is just once or twice a day, once in the morning and once in the evening, I check my social media channels just to see what's going on, if there's any conversations I want to start, or if there are any questions I want to answer. But I also actually have the notifications for Twitter turned on my phone. So I have the business account on my phone, and I have all the notifications turned on. So I get regular updates on that, and I can see what's happening throughout the day. So if I see something, if I see someone talking to us directly on Twitter, I'll pop on and I'll respond to them there and then. But otherwise, I would kind of avoid going on it too much. So if you have the budget, of course, it's amazing to have a dedicated social media marketer. But for small businesses, it's not really that necessary. It's a luxury that if you can afford it, sure. If you can't, it's not the end of the day. How do you get new followers? The big question. Firstly, if you have your social media links all over your website and your email, people will want to follow you through that. Secondly, engaging on the social media platforms themselves, liking content from other people, sharing content from other people, following other people, having conversations with other people, answering questions with other people. Social media is very social. So if you socialize on it, you'll start to get more and more followers. And if you're sharing amazing content and people are retweeting your content or resharing your content or posting that content onto forums and et cetera, people go into that content. And again, your website's going to do that work with the social media icons there where people will follow you. So how do you get new followers? Be social, which takes a little bit of time when you're first starting out. If you're on Spokal, we have something called a Twitter builder. Now you have to be a little bit more active on Twitter before you start this, but the Twitter builder is super handy, and it basically favorites everything in your industry, like a keyword that you've set up in your industry on Twitter. So if someone mentions, for example, high heels on Twitter, the Twitter builder will automatically favorite that for you. So that's an amazing tactic that we use to gain followers. And that is very popular with a lot of our clients as well. How do you stay on top of your social media accounts without being on it all day? Kind of answered that question already with the first question. So yeah, I had the notifications turned on my phone. I think that's a really, really good idea because I'm always alerted to it during the day. Another thing I do is I schedule time in my day to maybe contribute to a Twitter chat, or I might go out and search specific keywords and see if there are conversations happening related to those keywords that I'm interested in, and answer questions if the keyword or if the query results in a question. Yeah, I think the biggest tip would be to definitely like create a schedule. So go on it first thing in the morning. If you want to go out on it at lunchtime as well, it's super handy, maybe after work. And yeah, have those notifications on your phone and kind of keep getting those updates as you progress through your day. Okay, so I think that's all the questions we have. So thanks so much for all of those questions. If you have any more and I just didn't get around to them, or you just hadn't thought of them yet, that's fine. But please feel free to send me an email. Just reply to one of the emails you got from me for the webinar, and I will try to get back to you ASAP. So until we meet again, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I wish you the best of luck with your social media marketing.